like how many years have you been in the high ticket space and how many offers have you been a part of?
So, I've been a part of the high ticket space for about 3.5 years now, almost four. And I've been a part of four different offers now.
Four different.
Um, one one of them was pretty short. I had it was kind of like a multiple offer thing where I was considering both, got on one for a few days, and then went to another one. But yeah, I've been on four offers so far. So I would say average, I've stuck with an offer around over a year, maybe a year and 3 months, year and 6 months.
Okay. So it's like a pretty entrepreneur space. So it's not something where it's like, hey, you get into one offer and you're going to be here for the next 20 years selling the same thing. Like it's kind of an entrepreneur thing where you're going to be bouncing between different companies, based on, you know, kind of what's happening and going on with the company. So it's good to kind of have like a resource in your back pocket for jumping onto new teams when new things are happening.
100%. So like, back when I said I was creating a network and I didn't even know it when I was training, like like the last two jobs I've had now have all come from that network. Like I know the sales directors now. I know people who own the companies. Like it's crazy. I never thought I would be here, but the good work ethic I put in and the reputation I built and the connections I made have just helped me out phenomenally.
Nice. What are the different kinds of roles you've been in the last couple of years?
Ah, probably all of them, almost. So I've been a setter, I've been a closer, and I've been a um, let's see, CSM.
Mhm.
So I've really done both, and now I'm back closing again. But right now, kind of the idea is I'm working with a newer company, so I'm developing sales scripts and systems, and then hopefully I'm going to build a closer team on this offer. So that's kind of like the idea going. So I'm looking at being a closer manager now.
Nice. Grown on. You're kind of like growing step by step over the years into new things, and that's awesome, man.
From where I've gone to where I've come now, it's actually pretty crazy. Like right now, I just landed a new offer as a closer. We're doing 18K deals pretty regularly. So OTE for this offer is around like 20K a month. But I didn't start there. My story began really like in the military. So I did about 10 and a half years in the Navy. Um, and there's really like some key points that I realized in my life that were happening where I had to make some changes. Right. So it was kind of crazy. So the last year we were out on mission. We were out 297 days, and me and my wife at this point had probably been married for, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 years. And we had been wrestling with the idea of, hey, do I stay in for 20 years, get a guaranteed paycheck for the rest of my life, but kind of like miss out on family time and have that security, or do we get out and kind of like walk through this door into the unknown? Mind you, this was the middle of COVID. Like it was the Wild West, man. So it was pretty crazy. So I'm out for 297 days and I get back. And mind you, my son had just been born like the day before I left underway. So I got to see him like for 24 hours. I came back. My son was almost a year old, and I walked across the brow on the submarine, from the submarine to the pier, and I picked my son up, and he just starts screaming because he has no idea who I am. Um, and that really hit me really, really hard. So I was like, do I want to repeat this over and over again and like miss out on the first 5, 10 years of my kid's life? Mm, probably not, right? So I had to find something different. So that it was like that moment that really made me decide to find something different and get out of the military. And so that's what we did over the next 2 to 3 years. I finished out my contract, and you know, I didn't know what was on the other side, but I knew it wasn't going to be a submarine, and I knew I was going to be there with my family. So that was that one defining moment that really kind of set me on this path to find work that would allow me to be there for my family. Um, kind of like remote work does. But
Got it.
so yeah,
So
that's
the
kind of where
stuff
it started.
started to cut in here, man. But like, so essentially, you already knew that you needed to make a change. You met your son again for the first time. He had no clue who you were, and you're like, I have to make a change. And so at that point, that's where you were like, yep, something's new got to happen. But you had no clue what you were going to be doing there to spend more time with your family because that was the outcome you were looking to achieve.
Exactly. Yeah, it was kind of like that one moment. I'm sure other people have others. They're like something happens, you're like, dude, I am going down the wrong path here.
Got it.
Okay, and so then what were you evaluating at that point? Were you like just spending nights researching of like how to make that a possibility, or what
Yeah,
happened?
man, it was kind of crazy. Like I just started going into research mode. I got out of the Navy. I tried to start a business. I tried to do Amazon. It was everybody, all the things everyone's already tried. But I I ended up researching a lot about remote closing, and it's like, okay, well, I can control my day. Okay, I can work from home. Sweet. I can make 10K a month. That's more money than I've ever made. Awesome. This sounds great. So I did a lot of research, what it was like, and eventually, I stumbled on a couple of programs, and one of them was, Matt Moore Setter to Closer, and ran through that. I mean, all of these combined have really helped me like get me to where I am today. So that, yeah, I mean, to answer your question, I just went into research mode because like, I mean, if I had to look back at myself then, I was like really skeptical, to be honest. I was like, okay, is this too good to be true kind of thing? So I did a ton of research, and dude, I'll tell you, like, I waited for about a year to pull the trigger on something like this, and if I would have started a year earlier, like I would have been so much further today. It would be absolutely insane. But
How many hours of research would you say you spent? Like how many YouTube videos would you say you watched before you made a decision to just do something?
all of them,
You watched everything on YouTube.
everything I could possibly consume, it was like it was over 100 hours probably of stuff, and I'd like rewatch stuff. And the reason I did it, I was like, okay, if I jump into this thing, like I'm gonna jump hard, right? But I have to make sure that I can support my family with this because I had gotten out, tried to start the business, didn't work. COVID shut a lot of things down. I got a management position at a textile factory just to kind of, pay the bills. But dude, I was still working 70 hours a week there. It was crazy. And you know, like I brought in over $200,000 worth of deals in a year, and I was getting so underpaid, it was crazy. So I was just getting worked to death over there. And
What would you say now after like you've gone through all this? Like what would you say were some of the things on the other side of the fence that had you kind of like hemming and hawing about? Like what were you so like nervous about? Like what made that uncertainty for you, made you just research for so long before you decided to just dive in?
I was scared because I didn't know if it was possible. Um, at a root level, I was scared because I didn't know what the industry looked like. I didn't know what was possible. I didn't know if I could support my family. But then like, you just got to make a decision. Dang it. Like at one day I was just like, dude, like, am I going to do this, or am I just going to like, you know, walk around the pool all day long, or am I actually going to jump in and like do this thing? So I just wanted to be absolute certain that this would work. But in reality, there's
You can't even be certain that you're gonna put your pants on tomorrow. Be certain of
exactly
that.
like we don't even know if we're going to wake up tomorrow. Like, that's an extreme. But I would say like if you're betting on outside things making you successful, you're betting wrong. If you're betting on yourself to do the work and do it right and do it with everything you've got, then you're betting on the right thing. And so when I shifted my mindset on, is this going to make me successful? No, it's not. I'm going to make me successful, and I'm going to utilize this to do that. I would say I already did the research for you, man. I'm literally living proof. I went from knowing nothing about sales to I'm making over 10K a month, right? Um, and the best way is you just kind of gotta go for it feet first and make that decision, because until you do that, you're gonna spin your wheels doing research. Like you're never gonna make any progress. Analysis paralysis. A lot of people fall into that trap. So you have to make the decision, be super confident, and go for it. That's it.
I feel like I tell people all the time, like getting into this space and making like 10K a month, like, no, it's not easy, but it is simple. Like the path to get there is like super simple. You just have to like put in the hours, the reps, like you kind of put it in 100 plus mock calls before you even got on an offer. Like that's no
Yeah.
cakewalk at all, right? But like the path is there to get to, right? There's
Mhm.
this isn't like a, easy money, get rich quick. It's like we're building like a legitimate skill here that'll like pay dividends for you in your case, a 100x return on your
Yeah.
coaching.
There you
But
go.
like it's not like you just woke up and that money was in your account. You're getting up
No, it's
every day putting in the work. Okay, so you make the decision. Okay, you
mhm.
decide to go forward on a program. You meet Matt, and at that point, how quick was it before you made your first kind of income online?
It was about it was about I think it was 3 months. So when I got into the industry from when I started making money, it was about 3 months. But a lot of people did it quicker than I did. Um, what was really important to me is doing the best I absolutely could from day one. So I did like in the industry, you'll hear like mock calls, right? So you practice with somebody selling something. So I did like over 60 mock closer calls, which are about an hour a piece. And then I can't even count anymore, but it was over like 120 setter calls with other people in the community. Um, and that was over the course of 3 months. And then I finally got in my first offer. And most people actually start out as a setter. But from the work I did, I actually started as a closer. Um, so I got accepted to an offer closing right away. And from the training I did, I hit top closer like for the first 3 months I was there, completely new. It was crazy.
Wait,
And
before we
Nice.
get into before we get into that, because that's like exciting. I just want to go back into like the training aspect of it
yeah,
briefly because for 3 months, that's like a decent transition time, like quite a bit of time. Were you balancing an existing job between the training, or how did you kind of fit in those mock calls?
mm. I wouldn't call it balancing. So, it that's actually a really good question because I'd made the decision to do the best I possibly could, right? And so I would work. I managed my schedule at work to be 8 to 9 hours a day, depending on what was going on. And then I told my family, I'm like, hey, Dad's going to be working really hard to try to get this new job, and so for these next few months, that's what I did. Now I carved out specific time with the kids so we could hang out for an hour here and there, because they still need that, right? And my wife too. But for the most part, it was after work. Like literally, I would, I don't know, drink a glass of milk or something and go down into the basement. And I would be in this corner of the basement and be like, okay, guys, gotta go, gotta hop on a coaching call. And I would like mock with people till like midnight, 1 a.m. And then I'd go back to work at 7. Like it was pretty hardcore, but I just,
And
it
so,
was,
wait, hold
yeah,
on real quick, just so I'm clear on this. How many kids do you have?
too.
So you have two kids, you have a wife, you had a full-time job, and in the background, you went through the training, getting yourself prepared over a period of 3 months before you transitioned from the current job that you had into a full-time closer.
Exactly.
Right on.
Yeah. I just, I had to make sure that I could make that switch, and keep my family in a good position.
What was your like first offer like there? Like, what you were closing? How long did you work for that company?
I think I worked there for about a year and 3 months or so. Consistently 9, 10, 12K months.
With that offer, how'd you actually get it? Because like so many people are like, where do I find offers and where are they hidden and how do I show up to those calls and what does that even look like? Is it like a normal interview? So can you kind of walk through like where'd you find it and how that like hiring process worked for you?
Yeah. So after I did the work, right? So like one really important aspect that I realized afterwards is when I went through the course, right? I was constantly interacting with people, like pouring my time into them, my advice into them. We would practice, like I was giving my time and energy to other people, and I created like a really, really good network and a really great reputation in the space. So at the end of when I was done, ready for a job, like I already had a pretty good reputation in the training course. And so I got into what was called the pipeline, right? It's basically just a bunch of companies looking for really good salespeople, right? And what's crazy, like, you know, people think they have good sales skills until they go to like setter to closer, and then they're like, Oh man, I've been doing it wrong this entire time, right? So even like experienced people who come in benefit, can learn a ton from this. But anyway, so I got into the pipeline and I used everything I learned, how to shoot a 60-second video, how to interview. And so I took everything I learned in there and I got in contact with the guys like, they said, "Hey, we might have a good offer for you." And they introduced me into a Facebook group chat. I started talking to the one of the sales directors in the business. We chatted back and forth. We set up a time to talk. I actually sent him a 60-second video like I was trained to do after that. And I was like, "Hey, this is Michael. This is what I like about you guys. This is how I can connect." Everything like that. And later on, when I got the job, he basically said, "After you shot me that video, I knew I was going to hire you right away." But I didn't know that. So I met with the guy the next day. We hit it off really, really well. We went through expectations. I asked a lot of really good questions in the interview, and then one thing led to another. And then I was hopping on Zoom calls with strangers, selling them, how to scale and grow their coaching course.
How quickly were you taking calls after that, like first sort of interaction or interview?
Um, I think it was like within 3 days. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
pretty fast.
And like with you being the top closer on that team and that offer, was like the structure of that offer just positioned in a way where like the guys really just sucked who are currently doing it, or were you just at the right spot in the right time on the right offer? Like what contributed, I guess, to allowing you to make that much? And if someone was looking for like a new offer, what could they kind of like look for to see if they could make similar income?
Yeah. So the like I'll just be honest, like the biggest thing that helped me is the training. Okay. I had like there's a difference between like having done something for a really long time and having done it right, right? So what I learned through the training is just like a bunch of really good core principles. So once I got on this offer, like I understood, how to do a discovery, how to do a good intro, and all this other stuff where a lot of the other sales guys had not gone through that type of training. So they were starting much, much lower on the totem pole than I was. And like I didn't even know it at the time, but the training on how to conduct these sales calls and everything like that, just that put me right at the top. Now, is that going to happen like every time? Maybe not, but it definitely made me stand out for sure. So it was like to answer your question, hands down the training.
Nice. What caused you to leave there?
So they kind of so in the industry, like you'll kind of get used to it, but they changed the source of their leads to more of a free group, and a lot of people opting into a free group want free things, right? So I saw that coming, lead quality went down, and like super, super great people. Like I loved the team, and it was actually really hard for me to leave. But at the end of the day, my first responsibility is my family, so I had to leave. But like that was what's so cool about setter to closer is like you learn how to assess whether an offer is going to be, support your lifestyle or not. And then so you're going to get plugged into the right people from the get-go.
What was like your highest month?
The highest months I had was as a closer. I think the best 2 months I had was 15 to 16K consecutively. Pretty high around like 12 to 13 now. That's a smaller offer, but I mean it was still doing pretty good.
Okay. And can you break down, I guess, what contributed to that? Like not like how many calls you took, or you could do that, but like also just what was your attitude, feelings? How are you showing up? Like how would someone do the same thing and make that amount on an offer? And what were you doing?
So mindset wise, like it's a little bit deep, but I was basically in a position where I could not fail. Like my family was depending on me. So that mindset of like no matter what I did, I was gonna do it right and I was gonna excel at it. Like that mindset took me really far. But what I was doing, like I was just caring about people, dude. Like I genuinely like want to connect and want the best for people. So, a strong follow-up game, strong discoveries in your calls, making sure that people you can really help people. And if not, not being afraid to tell them, "Hey man, you're not exactly a good fit, but this might be better." And then I've gotten so many referrals from that, like, man, you're like a really honest guy. Like I appreciate that. Here's my friend. He could actually use your help. So honestly, man, just like coming into it, um, knowing that no matter what I did, I was going to succeed and I would make it work. And then two, just caring about people on a fundamental human level and treating people like how I'd want to be treated. I mean, does that
Yeah.
answer it, or did you want me to go in like more
Yeah, no,
numbers?
I love that. No, I love that. I love that. And I think most people or a lot of people who look at this space from the outset, they're like sales, sales, icky, gross. I don't want to be like a car salesperson that's pressuring, high pressure
Yeah.
and making them buy something that A, they don't want, they don't need, or it's just a scam. So what was your impression of the space when you kind of got into it? Like, was it salesy like that? And can you talk a little bit more about kind of what your experience has been more with like what it actually is like?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like getting into the space, it was a little bit scary because just like you said, I wasn't educated on like what real sales was. I think when everyone thinks sales, they think used car salesman, right? Like, let's just be honest. Like everyone thinks used car salesman. They think it's gonna be a high pressure situation. Someone's gonna be dishonest and sell you something you don't need. Well, I mean, that's what I really liked about going through Matt's course is and like setter to closer is you learn how to do sales, but you do it in such an ethical way where, look, man, if I'm a struggling business owner and I'm like feeling pretty down about, just living paycheck to paycheck, month to month, and I need some help, right? Sometimes I just need some encouragement. I need to see that there is a way out of this situation. And that's basically you're connecting with people one on one, helping them realize there is a better outcome, if they're willing to put in the work, and then helping them get there. Like that's it. It's almost an ethical obligation to help people help themselves when you can help them in whatever way you are, right? I had this guy come in and he wanted to be a coach so bad. He's like, man, he was like 22 and he came to me and he's like, Michael, I want to do this. I'm like, but dude, you can't even pay your rent next month. I don't even think you should do this. He's like, Michael, I want to do that. Like I am going to do this. And I was like, okay, but if you come in, like I need to know that you're going to do the work. 3 weeks in, a week before his rent's due, he had paid like half the balance of the whole program, right? Like he gave me whatever he could. We got him in. I actually coached him on sales, and he was able to make his first $6,000 sale to another company and pay his rent and pay the rest of, the whole program off. It was absolutely insane. Like I called this guy, like we still talk back and forth to this day, and I'm just like, dude, how you doing? Like it was such a big moment. And like that's the kind of stories you create as a good salesperson, just helping people. Like you create those crazy cool stories.
Totally. Yeah, I've seen something similar to that where like, you turn someone down in a sales call situation where you're like, "Hey, look, like if you jump into this right now, like you're going to not be able to buy groceries for yourself for the next 2 weeks. Let me just give you some free help, free advice to get this ball rolling, and then once you have it rolling, you have the funds coming in, then let's jump into a higher caliber kind of thing." And if you actually give that person real advice to actually help them out to where they can actually come back in and jump in, I've seen so many people do that. So it's not about like hard closing somebody and making them like use the last of their grocery money. They're out on the curb eating ramen and
Yeah.
all that drama. Like it's not about taking their last dimes. And a lot of times what I've noticed is when you tell people that, like, hey, look, like we're really particular about the people that we're bringing in here. We only want to bring you in if it's going to be a good fit for you, and it's not going to be a good fit for you if you fall into a scarcity mindset just to pay for this. Your results are going to be totally watered down. So let's discuss this at a further time. Those people really honor and respect that opinion that you give them rather than trying to take their last two dimes. And a month, 2 months later, they always come back around and want to jump back in because of how you treated them with like real human dignity and not just trying to take their last two pennies.
Yeah, 100%, man. Like so many people came to me and they're like, "Well, how do I do this?" I'm like, "Well, first we need to stabilize your situation and like get you just any job. Like, let's start there. Let's stabilize your life first and then get these basic necessities made and then let's focus on this." But 100%, man. I'm with you.
I love
Wow.
that. I love that so much. So I guess like what's next for you? Where do you kind of see yourself in your sort of career here and growing into a closer manager? Like what's kind of your goal vision that you want to go after?
Shoot, my next goal, I mean, monetarily wise, is my next goal is 240K a year. That's gonna, put me and my family in a totally different spot. And this like that's been my motivation the entire time. Like I didn't have a lot as a kid. And I just don't want to have to tell my kids no, like for different experiences and stuff like the other day, I got to see my daughter ride a horse for the first time, and like I'm gonna cry. Like it was amazing. Like I never thought I would be here, but I get to wake up every morning. I get to make tea for my family and like bring it to them in bed. I get to hug my kids. Like that's that's what this remote space affords me every single day. And I just never forget the way it was before. But sorry, got a got a little emotional there. But yeah, so yeah, 20K a month is my next goal. I've been like really close. But I want to do that consistently, and I know it'll happen. But next steps is probably closer manager. I want to build out this offer, get us closing around um, probably half a million, $1 million will be the first target, seven figures in a month. That way we can build out a team around that. And then, once that happens, 20K will be pretty small potatoes at that point. But, then I want to get in probably helping other businesses build and grow after that. I mean, it's just my goal is to always stack knowledge and skills to where I can use them at a higher level to get paid more for my skills, right? So that's the goal. Next goal is 240,000. After that, maybe half a million a year and so
How
on and
could
so forth.
hey Stubbs, how could somebody like get in contact with you and maybe potentially like learn and train with you and then maybe even get onto your offer as a closer or setter onto the offer you're running?
So what we can do, I mean, you can go through setter to closer. There's a really cool like one-on-one program we have there. You can train with me directly one-on-one, and whether you want to be a setter, whether you want to be a closer, we can get you ramped up, and you could come work with me directly. You could come work with someone like Matt or Ethan. Like these guys, these guys are crazy. Like I don't like for the people who are listening, like they probably don't know that you guys have worked on like seven-figure offers. It's been absolutely insane. So like just learning from people who have been in that environment and worked in that space. But that's why I say how, yeah, and honestly, like me personally, I've invested over $30,000 in my sales skills in myself. So, but what that tells other people is like I'm willing to do whatever it takes to be the best. And so if you have that mindset, if you want to grow, the best way to do that is one-on-one. But you have to be ready for it. And you can't like, it's not just another day. Like you got to go full into it. But
Got
yeah,
it.
that
So
would be
are you
it.
telling me we should change the price from setter to closer up to 30K per person?
Hey man, like knowing what I know now, I would absolutely invest 30K into if someone could like download what I know now into me in a few months, it would pay for itself within the first year. Like it's insane.
Ever have you ever made like it because it's hard to quantify like how much money you'd make back from coaching because it's not as tangible as like investing in the S&P 500,
Yeah,
right?
right.
You know what I mean? But like that 30K, if you had to say like what that 30K has like brought in for you income wise, what would you say that kind of translates to?
Mm, definitely like in the last few years, definitely over 300K.
So
So
what's that return?
yeah.
Like 10x, like you know, let's see, 30K, that would be 100x.
So that's like 100x on your finances. You're actually getting to watch your family grow up. You're actually getting to be able to spend time with your wife. And it's not like you're just seeing them like once or twice a year from the ship.
Exactly. And it's like if you're just talking monetarily, you can measure those things. But like if you're talking about what it's given me in terms of like time with my family and those kinds of things, like you can't put a price on it. It's, you know,
And you're saying like the most valuable thing to you for that was getting like a one-on-one coach from somebody that was already doing this?
yeah, that so I did a lot of group coaching in the beginning, and then I got to a place where I was like, I kind of realized that, you know, I got to a point where I was ready to learn more. I wanted to get into it. I wanted to get, all the real stuff. So yeah, once I started working one-on-one with a coach, that's when I ramped into those 12 to 15K months.
Mm.
Why do you think that like the one-on-one coach like made the difference for you or like helped you out so much though?
Well, because I mean, the reality of sales is what I've learned is that every single person that does sales, like the salesman or the saleswoman, is completely different, right? So figuring out what your individual strengths are and applying that to, you know, like principle-based sales is gonna bring those together so that you're selling at your, peak performance or like, your top potential.
I love that, dude. Okay. And if I was talking to like Stubbs 3.5 years ago, where you've been doing the research for a year and you've like kind of made that sort of decision to like move into a program, how do you justify that? Like if I'm talking to that version of you, like how do you justify that? Why, if I'm a friend of yours, I'm like, dude, just continue watching the YouTube videos, continue learning that way. Why the hell do you have to pay someone for coaching? Like, what would you say?
There's a million and one things you can look at out there, but there's specific things you need to know first, second, third, fourth, and fifth that, you know, that the guidance from someone who's been in the space for a long time is going to show you much, much faster than you can figure out on your own. So you're buying your time, you're buying that knowledge, and then you're learning from somebody and be able to apply that in several weeks rather than several years. That's what you're buying.
So you kind of had like blinders onto the things that you didn't know that were going to be roadblocks or you stepped into, and because you had that person there, it just saved you all that time from hitting all those blocks.
100%. Yeah. And even bringing up stuff I didn't know was holding me back. Like and we did some deep work. For, do you mind if I tell like a quick personal story?
Yeah, man, go
Yeah.
for it.
And this is pretty deep, but I want to just be like really open with everybody. So like as a kid, my dad was a pretty angry guy, right? And so when I would encounter like male people or like, strong male personalities on the phone or a call, like I would kind of revert back to like my 12-year-old self, right? I would get a little bit nervous. I would get a little bit antsy and scared. But when I was on with a coach, they were like, hey man, like, because I brought him like, look, man, I have trouble with these types of people. And we just kept digging deeper and deeper. Then I figured out that when I was on with these people, like this past experience I had was affecting me. So like, it goes much deeper than just, hey, say this at this certain time. Like you do a lot of inner work that maybe you didn't realize was holding you back. And, as someone who's coached a lot of other salespeople so far, um, a lot of the times the main things holding you back are things on the inside. And that's another reason why a one-on-one coach is amazing because someone helped me realize that.
What's like one thing that you didn't know before you jumped into the high ticket space that like when you learned it, it was almost like a shock or something that like it was kind of like the door hit you in the face moment. You were like, oh my gosh, I'm glad I got this coach.
Something that hit me in the face. Shoot, I mean, I was brand new to the space, so everything kind of hit me in the face. So there's a couple things. One of them is, as a salesperson, if you can relate to the person you're talking to and be the person they need you to be to help them accomplish their goals, like that was a huge breakthrough for me. Like, how can I be the person that you need me to be to help you achieve your goals? Okay. So realizing that was a big one. And the second one was something that like hit me really hard. I was thinking one day and I was like, man, why am I having trouble asking the hard questions? Because in sales, you ask questions that people typically don't hear on a day-to-day basis. Like, you kind of get deeper and figure out what's really going on. Like, what's motivating you to do this at the end of the day? And I was like, why can't I ask these hard questions? But then I asked myself, like, there's really no such thing as hard questions. There's just questions. So those two things alone, like those two realizations alone have allowed me to really ramp in this space. Like that, and I genuinely do care about people and want them to have better lives, with whatever I'm doing. Um, but yeah, those were two big things.
And I love like your energy and attitude and mindset. Like I've seen you inside the group, like you're always posting the wins and you're always going out of your way to just like do extra stuff that you don't have to do, but you're doing it. And I'm like, who is this guy? Like, why is he just going crazy? So like, and I love it, because it makes me want to like be involved with you, know you, and like stay connected with you for the future. So like, and like no one else is really doing that, at least in the group, to your level. So like break down your like sort of attitude or mindset there. Like what's going on inside your head that makes you do these things?
To kind of go out of your way and do something like that, you have to be, I don't want to say insane or crazy, but there's more underlying motivations, right? Like it fills my bucket on the inside, to really see people progress and grow and succeed in things that maybe they didn't think they could do. So, when I'm posting wins every day or like trying to do a one-on-one with somebody, even though like I'm not being paid for it, to see that growth and to see that joy and like inspiration and like a funny term, to see their brains explode like on the other side is so cool. Like, man, I can't believe this guy is doing this. Like, is this really happening? Like seeing people go from I'm a single mom, with a kid barely making ends meet to, now we got our own house and just seeing those success stories. Like no matter well it's like individual one-on-one or whether it's like in a team, like wherever I'm at, I want to put that energy into my team because I would want the same out of my team members, you know. I on the submarine I would always tell people, I'm like, look, I would literally die in a fire for you. So I want you to do the same for me.
Yeah, kind of like a do unto others kind of scenario. That makes a lot of sense.
Probably the most common question, man, I just get DM'd or asked, being in this space for as long as I have been, and you too, 3.5 years, quite a bit of time. If there was someone who's like completely fresh, beginner to the space, like if you had to kind of coach them on like what you would do if you were just kind of getting started from ground zero, no skill set sort of thing, kind of what would that look like, or what would you kind of tell them?
Like, look, if you want to turn this into a career, it's really easy. The fastest way to do that is just to get really good really fast. And I would say if you're new, that's actually a good thing because what I found in this space is the people with the most experience, right, who come in are always the worst, right? They're the worst. They don't have the right foundations. They don't have the right things to say. It is that used car salesman vibe, right? A lot of the time. But if you come into the space fresh, that's actually good. You're gonna learn how to do it ethically. You're gonna learn how to do it properly. You're gonna learn how to do it with to give you the best possible outcome first, and you're not gonna have bad habits. So I was gonna say, if you're fresh, that's absolutely the best place to start.
They're like a sponge. You take it all
Exactly.
in.
That's generally where I like to hire from people too, that they haven't, done a million things, been in the high ticket space for a crazy long time. And generally, if you have been, you should be able to find your own offers. So most of the time, you should, if you've been in the space for like 4, 5, 6+ years, you should be able to lean on your network and find other positions like that, right? But especially if you're newer to the space, that does save you a lot of time.
Talking about network, the last day I had on my last offer, two separate individuals in my network recommended me both for the same job. And so that's how I am, where I'm at now.
And so Matt, would you say when you're hiring new guys as well, like are you a little suspicious when someone does have 3 or 4 years experience in the space, but like they're not recommended by anyone and they're just hopping on the meeting cold?
Totally, I am because the main thing that I struggle with there, maybe it's a me problem, but generally most of the time, the people that have done this for several years like that, they're not as coachable as someone that is newer to this. And so there's three main things that I look for in an interview, and that's someone that wants to create a healthy team atmosphere, someone that is coachable. And when I say coachable, you're good at implementing the coaching given you. And then lastly, leadership tendencies, abilities, and desires. Like if you're someone that identifies as a leader and someone that wants to grow into being a bigger, stronger leader and helping other people, that's a big indicator that you should jump into this space. If you hate toxic work environments and you want to create a healthy team atmosphere, people would love to hire you, right? Like if you're interested in being a part of that, people love that. And then lastly, if you're coachable and you're good at implementing new things, then most sales managers would love to have you a part of their team, because whenever the sales managers are putting in new systems, new processes, new tools, they're doing that so they can improve your sales performance overall. And generally, people that have like done the same thing for so many years, the same exact way, when you introduce something new to them, they like buck at it and they're like, no, 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 just let me do it the old way. And it's like, no, like we're moving forward, we're growing, we're learning, developing. And so someone interested in learning, growth, development, being coachable and implementing those things is also like a really big indicator of someone you'd want to have on your team.
The second you think you know everything, you stop learning.